All right, we'll get started. We'd like to welcome Patrick Cantlay into the interview room here at the Arnold Palmer Invitational presented by MasterCard. Patrick, welcome back. As I just mentioned, this is your second start here at Bay Hill, finishing in a tie for fourth last year. So if we could just get an opening comment from you on being back.
Yeah, it's great to be back. I hadn't played it before last year, but now back 2 years in a row. I played well last year. It's a golf course that's, historically particularly difficult, and I think this year will be more of the same. The fairways are hard to hit, and there's a big penalty if you do miss the fairways, and the greens look like they can get really firm, especially if there's no rain this week.
Also finished in a tie for fourth in your most recent start on tour at the Genesis Invitational. How's your game feel coming into this week?
Yeah, it feels good. I had 2 weeks off and did some work back in Jupiter. I was in California or on the West Coast since almost Christmas, so it's nice to have a couple weeks back at home.
All right, we'll take some questions out here. If you have a question, we'll get a microphone to you. We'll start with Edgar in the third row.
Yeah, Patrick, you mentioned the difficulty of the course. It's a change of pace, maybe a little bit from some other tour stops. Do you like that it is?
Yeah, I do. I think there's a premium on driving the golf ball in the fairway, and I think you have to play really smart around this place. There's, some really tricky hole locations, and if you get out of position, it's really important to get the ball to the correct spot if you want to have a chance at scoring. I mean, it's definitely one of the harder stops on tour, and I really like, golf courses that are more on the challenging end.
When you look at the golf rankings and winners thus far this season, a lot of the top hasn't gotten to the winner's circle. What does that say about the depth on tour? And in your case, what do you think is the final ingredient that might get you there?
The final, you said what?
To get you to the winner's circle. Final ingredient for you. But first off, just the depth of tour based on the rankings and who's winning thus far.
Yeah, I think it's harder to win out here than it ever has. I think guys play more aggressively, and the scores, as you can see, are lower and lower seemingly every year. I always marvel at the beginning of the year how many under par guys shoot at the Century. It's essentially the same golf course, but guys keep shooting lower and lower. And I think winning, you got to keep putting yourself in position time after time. Excuse me. And some of those weeks you get the right break at the right time. You hit a couple putts that instead of going on the lip, they go in. And usually those are the weeks that you win.
We'll go over here in the front row to Adam.
Patrick, last we saw you had a bit of a tough Sunday and didn't talk afterwards. It came out that you were sick. Can you tell us a little bit about what was going on that day?
Yeah, there was a flu going around in LA, and I got sick on Friday night, and I just was drained. I just didn't have any energy. But yeah, even par on the weekends, not going to get it done.
Ever experienced that before?
Yeah, I've played many tournaments, not feeling my best before. Kind of inopportune timing, but no excuse.
We got one question in the third row back here.
Mike Brodsky, Florida National News. When you think about the legacy of Arnold Palmer, what has been his impact on you and your game, or are there any other PGA legends maybe that have had an impact as you were growing up in the game of golf?
Yeah, definitely. I met Arnold Palmer once at the Palmer Cup in 2011, and obviously with everything he's done for the game and his history and legacy, it was a real treat to meet him. As far as golfers that really have made an impact, I mean, Fred Couples is a good friend of mine, and someone I look up to and I've spent a decent amount of time with.
We'll go to Doug in the front row here.
Starting on the premise that you don't have a real glaring weakness in any part of your game, was there ever, I'm assuming that's fairly true, but was there ever anything kind of in development years that you were not very good at that you had to work to become better at? Was there a weakness as a kid outside of press conferences?
Yeah, definitely. I would say short game, definitely like the first year I came back in 2017, chipping around the greens, rough or fairway. I think there's a difference to playing golf courses that are easier and softer, where I grew up, just a standard country club or standard golf club, whether I would play tournaments growing up, junior golf, or even high school golf, where it didn't demand as much around the greens, both in terms of technique and spin, really, because the greens were soft. And so when I got to the upper end of amateur golf and then the beginning of my professional career, my short game just wasn't as sharp compared to the rest of my game. And it was a little technique change and a lot more practice and really trying to learn how to spin the golf ball more, because a lot of the golf courses I grew up on were really traditional back to front greens. And if you missed it in the right spot, you're kind of always chipping uphill onto softer greens. And so you start playing some tournaments in Texas or Florida, and that's not really an option. So moving to Florida has been big for that, as far as helping my development out of necessity.
And one other kind of related to that is, for someone to be considered a good putter, an elite putter, do they have to start out that way? You have to be a good putter as a kid. I mean, I'm sure Tiger was a pretty good putter as a kid.
I bet.
Jordan the same way and what have you. Is it harder, do you think, if you suck at putting, to get better at it?
I think you've seen guys that have been average or mediocre putters that have turned into really good putters. Justin Rose sticks out. I know he had a number of years where he was lower on the strokes gained statistic, and he's had now a number of years with a new process that is, one of the best putters on tour. So I think you can do it. It's probably rarer than the other way. I'm sure Denny's always been a good putter.
We'll go to Kathy over here, all the way to the left.
I was listening to Colt Knost and Drew Stoltz as I was driving in today, and they were saying that there were 15, 16, 17 different players in this signature event than in the last signature event.
Okay.
And so they were saying it seemed to them like it was giving opportunity to people to get into these events, whereas before everyone was so worried about how no one was ever going to be able to get into them. Is that the right amount? Do you feel like that was the idea?
I think it was definitely the idea to try to get the best possible field in all these events. And so I think part of that is getting some of the guys that have played well this year. And I think the process is doing that. I think if you play well enough, there's no barrier to get in. If you know very clearly that if you play well, one of the best, if you have one of the best West Coasts, you're going to be in the tournament this week. So, I think it's been good.
Do you have another one?
Yeah. Has Fred taught you any cool shots?
Fred?
Yeah.
I don't necessarily pick his brain on golf so much. Just enjoy hanging with him.
He's a good hang.
He is.
Go to Bob in the middle.
Patrick, in your role as a board member and all that's going on behind the scenes, have you directly spoken with anybody from the Public Investment Fund? I mean, would it go to that point where you would be involved in that, or does that come from tour people to relay those talks?
Yeah, I have not. So that mainly has been happening between tour management, and then it gets relayed back.
Do you have any sense where we are with that at this point?
Not anything to add other than what's been reported, just that talks are ongoing.
We'll go to Rex right here.
And I don't know if you saw this morning, but Live Golf gave up its bid for world ranking points.
Okay.
Given that idea, can you envision a time in the next few years when the best players weren't in the major championships because of that? And if so, is there a fix in your mind that even if they don't get world ranking points, how do you make sure that the majors have the best fields?
Yeah, I think that's up for the majors to decide their fields. The British Open and the U.S. Open are obviously open events, so there's qualifying into those events. The PGA and the Masters are more invitational style. And so, it's really up to each individual tournament to determine the criteria to get into those events. And that's not really it's not really on my radar.
Go to Adam over here on the left.
Patrick.
Sorry, to the left. Patrick. Right
Oh.
here with Adam.
Oh, following up on what Rex just asked you, do you think the world rankings is broken?
I think the world rankings has a very particular set of criteria, and I don't know if broken's the right word, but I think that there's been so much uncertainty and change in the last couple years that it's inevitable that things need to be updated or things need to be changed, and I don't know if we've worked through all the changes necessary compared to all the changes that have happened in the last couple years.
What's something in the golf world you do think needs to be changed?
That seems like a very leading question.
Pretty open. Because you don't think the golf ball needs to change.
I don't. I think trying to figure out how to appeal to more people and appeal to more fans is probably the biggest change that I would like to see. I think if we can figure out a way to appeal to more people and get more people playing the game, I think when people start playing the game and learn what it's about, that's really an eye-opener for people. I've met I have a number of friends that really didn't play golf growing up, and they've gotten in their late 20s or early 30s, and they started playing, and they become addicted to the game. And now they're fans, and now they love playing the game. They're not going and playing football. They're not going and playing basketball, but they love going and playing golf. I think in this new age where people's attention span is less, it's rare to do something in person with your friends for 4 or 5 hours. And I think the more that we can kind of put our phones down and go out and be outside and do something with people that we enjoy, I think that would be better for everyone.
Doug?
But how many people actually put their phone down? What percentage of society actually puts its phone down?
Actually does?
Yeah.
Not much.
How do you fix that?
I don't have all the answers.
Why not? Kind of a couple of things, Pat. One of the things you were just talking about a minute ago. Every time we hear about, we got to make the game more appealing, reach out to the fans, etc. It seems like some of the answers we get are all related to television, the broadcast. Does it go beyond that? I mean, is that a big part of it? And if it's not, then what are some of the other elements or avenues, I guess, to make it better?
I think that's just one window, although probably a window that's pretty big. I mean, a lot of people, one of their biggest connections to golf is viewing it and viewing tournaments. But I do think, like I said earlier, getting more people to play the game. So that's, accessibility. For example, my foundation has a relationship with the PGA Junior Tour, so just getting more juniors to be able to play the game and even enjoy tournament golf, I think is huge. And, I was fortunate. My dad put me in a tournament when I was 9, and I didn't really think much of it. It felt the same as playing soccer or playing baseball. I often think that if my parents didn't put me in golf tournaments when I was that age, if I would ever make it to where I am now, probably not. But if you think about how many kids play soccer and just grow up playing soccer or baseball or basketball, the more juniors we can get exposed to golf and maybe enjoying tournament golf, I think that would just be fantastic, because I think it is a great game with great values. And like I said, I have friends that tell me all the time they wish they played younger because they love it now.
Tiny detail here, but how did you do in that 9-year-old tournament?
I think I was at Yorba Linda Country Club, and I think I 4-putted the last. I definitely shot in the 40s. My grandpa said it's not good to 4-putt.
I thought you were a good putter as a kid.
Well, that took a little time.
All right, Patrick, thank you very much for your time, and best of luck this week.
All right, thank you.